And go. Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Our guest today is Kevin Farr, a returning guest here at the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. Kevin Farr is a health and wellness coach, and you can find out more about Kevin Farr and his wonderful work at his website, lovealchemyscience.com. Welcome, Kevin Farr.
Thank you, Catherine. Good to be back. I'm really grateful that we get to talk again. And I particularly enjoy what we get to talk about before we open the shows and then get into some of the same content when we do the show. So I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you.
So many of our listeners here at the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio are fellow healers. And one question that so many people have is, if I get into an alternative career, can I make a living? And as of this recording, I'm 65 years old. I've had my own business for 31 years. I've done natural healing full time for 31 years. And and we're going to be talking about money and how to make it work. So, Kevin Farr, what is economics of self and why should people care about it?
Mm. I think the conversation that we started with before the show really encapsulates things. It's really about the relationship that we have with what we value in life, and some of those values it can be focused on what is monetary or material gain, right? And a lot of times the association with economics is that economics is really about scarcity and it's really about goods and services. I prefer a more mystically inclined and a lot more connected and intimate way of looking at economics, which is the interaction between everything. Information economics, material economics, ecological economics, behavioral economics. These are all slices of the same experience that we all have, which is called existence itself. So, economics of self is around clarity for how we interact with our mind, body, and spirit and the world around us. Ultimately, we're in an energetic exchange. Some people who hear that word might be like, "Oh, here we go down this like woo path." It's like, no, the universe is a collection of self-organizing chemical and electrical signals with a lot of other unknown things that we don't know how they're interacting. And that interaction creates life. It creates me, you, it creates the material world. So economics of self is having clarity of who, what, when, and where, and how we are to the best of our understanding, so that we can have clarity of how we interact with the outside, what we may feel like is the outside world or the marketplace or just life itself, based upon a set of principles. And those principles help us understand what we value and why. And from that place, we can make much more informed decisions, heuristics or discernment, some might say. But if I want to engage with the world based upon a certain set of principles, if I'm not clear on what those principles are, I don't really know what I'm interacting with in the world. I don't even understand my value. And I don't even mean monetary value. Economics of self is around combining and looking at a holistic sense of self and where we add value in community, and then determining what are our priorities based on that and how do we want to relate. Some people might say transact, that could be a part of it if we want to do those type of business deals, but really to run a relationship with the outside world in a way that matches our values, so that we have clarity and discernment of who we interact with, why, how we can be of service, how we can be of support. And then it can get down to like the mathematics of, well, how much do I charge an hour for the type of work that I do? So the more clarity we have on that, the more clarity we can have on how we serve and who we serve, and ultimately how much money we need to make to have a sustainable existence. And then to where we started at the beginning of the show is, how do we take care of these gifts? How do we take care of these resources? How do we steward them forward into the future without obsessing about the future? How do we do the things in the here and now that would enable us to have a flourishing garden in the future and pass it along to other people, places, and things? So snapshot of economics of self. It's actually been around for a long time. I'm not the creator of it, but I do contribute to this like line of wisdom tradition. You can see these types of values in economics of self show up in things like the wealth of nations, different philosophical frameworks. It even shows up in like older things like hermetic texts, which is really around the relationship as above, so below. So if I don't really know myself inside, how can I really relate to the world outside from a place of value? And disconnect. So these are really ancient principles. They've been around for a while and got recreated and kind of moved along into what is a philosophy that no one can say this person created economics of self. It's more like those of us that study these things contribute to it over time.
Okay, so Kevin Farr, in my healing room, I have an entire manual on clearing money issues. Now, as a medical intuitive healer, people primarily come to me for their health reasons, right? Like I can't figure out why I can't get well. I can't understand why whatever I'm doing isn't working. And frequently, what I find is that people's relationship with money underlies their health issues. Because if you do not have a healthy relationship with money, then you're living in survival mode. And
Oh, yes. Goes deep. This goes really deep.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so if we're living in survival mode, then we're living in constant stress. And so many, and a hindrance to getting well is often your own beliefs about money. So, you know, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like, all right, I'd rather die, than spend the money to get well. I mean, it's really sort of absurd how, absurd the beliefs can be. Um,
They can get very absurd. It's insane. It can get insane. And I don't mean that in a pejorative or crazy way. I think that that's part of what we're dealing with in our global societies, like insanity around money and materials and wealth. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And you talked in the beginning about, the universe. So the way that I see it is that if you actually look at the amount of money in the universe, it's literally unquantifiable. Like no one can say, you may be able to look at your own bank account or your own net worth and say, I'm worth, a figure, but there's an unlimited amount of money in the universe, right? And so there is an abundance of energy. In fact, my business is called Unlimited Energy Inc. because I recognize that we are working as healers with unlimited energy, and that includes unlimited financial resources. So
Well said.
where
Well
did the
said.
economics of self come from, and how did you start studying economics of self?
Oof, so much stuff wisdom you just dropped there. The pain and suffering that I've gone through in life is how I came to engage with economics of self. And it's a philosophical and mathematical framework for organizing one's values and priorities. And a lot of economists over the years have contributed to this. And the way I came to it was because I am well trained in business. I've been an executive. I've been a management consultant. I've got an MBA from a top 5 university, and I've consulted with some of the biggest organizations in the world. And I ran an innovation company where all we did was work with C-suite executives from anywhere from early stage startups, mid market, competitive companies to Fortune 10. And so working in the executive suite, I saw a lot of dysfunction around money, including my own dysfunction. And money for me had a history of being connected to safety, mobility, protection, running. And ultimately that led to an addiction to work and really a very disorganized, insane relationship with money. And when I look at my own personal journey and the history around economics of self, there's a common thread through the history of it, the contributors to it, and then my own personal story, which is we come to understand that our sense of self-worth and value and how we show up in community is really important, more important than how much money we can make off of other people, places, and things. And that really abundance and prosperity is really a holistic life based on ease and joy and the ability to pursue and express the things that we find of value, and to also be of service to our brothers and sisters in community. And that's a really important metric to have, is, are we nourishing and growing ourselves, and are we nourishing and growing other people, places, and things around us? So I came to economics of self because of my dysfunctional background with money. Even though I've earned 6 and 7 figures, had successful companies, I've made other companies hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay? But somehow I really struggle to understand what is a spiritual, mystical relationship with my money and with the money that I actually receive from other people. Like, once it's in my capacity to steward, then I have a responsibility. But when I'm exchanging and interacting with other people, we also have a relationship for how we receive them and how we treat them about their money. So from that standpoint, what economics of self is a way of relating to these parts of ourselves and others. And I came to it because the suffering was so crazy around money. I was like, there's got to be something else going on here, because it's not about the math. It's not about the numbers. It's not about the success. It's not about the prestige. It's not about the ideas. If all those things, if it was just about that, then it wouldn't matter if I felt unwell or not. I would just give a shit. Sorry, I was just scared just about that stuff. But what I come to understand is, like, no, my relationship with money is an indicator of my mental health. It's an indicator of my spiritual health. And the type of people I'm working with and doing business with and how I'm earning are also a reflection of my mental, spiritual health. And then just like this light bulb went off that was like, no wonder I would have crazy chaos around money. I'm not really clear on my mental health around this. And I'm willing to participate in certain types of marketplace behavior that doesn't match this either. Like, this isn't, no one, this is not sustainable. Oh my goodness, no wonder. Like, it's not sustainable to live that way. So part of me also coming into this practice was really deeply exploring, what is a sustainable, easeful way of earning, relating to money, and engaging with the marketplace and other people for the purpose of actual nourishment and contribution to meaning and value and connection versus profit. Not that profit's wrong, just if that's my target, I'm willing to do anything to get that. There's no principles in that. That's just make money. That's the only principles. Extract as much as you can from people, places, and things. And I just didn't want to do that. And I also don't want to relate that way in the marketplace. So I started trying to figure out, like, what's a different way to do this.
So great information. And I feel that I'm a pretty good example of how to be successful
You have
because
a great story. Yeah, you do. You
yeah,
do.
conventionally successful as in an unconventional career. I'm 65, I'm single, I'm totally self-supporting. I have investments at Morgan Stanley. I own my house, I own my car. I love what I do. I don't work with anybody that I don't enjoy working with. And over the years, I've come up with three principles for my business. My first principle is everything that I do has to be win-win. So that means it has to be good for me and good for you, right? So if you're not coming from a win-win paradigm, then it's like I'm letting other people rip me off, or I'm trying to overpower or use or somehow take advantage of others. The second thing that, which is follows with that, is that everything that I do has to be of total integrity. So my clients know that if I recommend something, whether it's another practitioner or a supplement or a methodology in natural healing, that it's of total integrity. And so they come to rely on me, so that if I tell them this is what's going to work for you, that to the best of my knowledge, that's an absolute truth. And then the last principle that I've always used in my business is that everything that I do has to be fun.
Yeah,
They,
thank you. Yes,
because
yes.
if it's not fun, it's not sustainable, right?
No,
So I
unless I want to be miserable and depressed, which is how I wind up having a lot of executive clients, because we all
exactly.
get to a certain level and we're just miserable with, like, have all the things we think we want, but it's not really the thing we actually need.
I never wake up in the morning thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to talk to so and so today, right? It's like, oh, great, today I get to teach yoga and I get to run the natural healing show and I get to work with these lovely people and watch them getting healthier and happier every day. So every day I'm living my joy, right?
Yeah, just listen to that. That's the strategy, everybody, right there. That's a good life strategy.
Yeah, every day
Yeah.
I'm living my joy. And then also I don't, having, I have a body, I'm, getting older and I work in a sustainable way. So I don't work so much that I get completely exhausted, right? My favorite
Yes.
work spot is actually my hammock.
I 100% agree with that. That's actually one of my favorite spots as well, is the hammock. The do nothing space. So many things get self-organized and ordered if I just lay back and just let it happen.
Let it happen. Exactly. Or and a lot of times I'll lay in my hammock with my laptop and write a medical intuitive reading. So with that, let's take another break and take a break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author, and we're listening to Kevin Farr, health and wellness coach, and we're talking about the economics of self. We'll be right back. So Kevin Farr, as I mentioned, I have an entire manual in my office on clearing money issues. And I've also taught workshops on clearing money issues and clearing business issues so that people can be more successful by clearing out their nasty beliefs. And what I find is that so many people's money issues underpin and underlie their health issues. Kevin Farr, from your experience, how does our relationship with money affect our physical health?
In every way. And it's interesting because this can get people can dismiss what I'm about to say because, well, we live in a society that is really in most parts of the world are really privileged, like a lot of disconnect from the mind body spirit relationship. So I'm gonna break this down in a way that hopefully gives people some context that feels accessible, right? The chemical electrical activity in the brain for me to move my hand, right, is no different than the chemical electricity in my brain that says focus on this particular object in the environment. And if I fixate on an object like the amount of money I can acquire, I am focusing my attention on an object that requires my adrenal system, my endocrine system. Right? It also requires parts of cognition, and it also requires a type of caloric energy. Like the brain uses about a third of the diet often and it really likes carbohydrates or ketones to function. So the way that physical health can be affected by relationship with money is that if I am over indexing on a fixation with an external object of which I chase to accumulate more and more of it, I have tuned my brain chemistry to focus on something for an unsustainable amount of time. Critical thinking and problem solving is a short form problem solving mechanism in the body. If I'm doing that 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, which is what a lot of us can do, and we can do that through either fearing money, so we avoid it all day long, or we want to get a lot of it, so we chase after it, that can produce a lot of stress inside of the nervous system. It can overtax the brain with critical thinking. It can lead to compulsive ruminating thinking. It can lead to anxiety. It can lead to sleep issues. It can lead to weight gain. especially if we start ordering and organizing our life around maximum productivity and efficiency and output. Well, where's the space for joy, for play, for lovemaking, for good food, for friends, for nature, or like, I don't know, doing absolutely nothing? Like in the United States and other developed worlds, they're in what could be called developed, which is also like a really interesting terminology. There's such a fixation on productivity and efficiency that there is a time cost associated with pursuing all these things. Like we just can't fit anything else in if we're obsessively chasing these outcomes, or if we disregard money and go, oh, I don't care about money, it's corrupt, it's evil, I don't want to participate in it. It's like, great, yeah, well then live in poverty. Like that doesn't work. That doesn't work either. Right. So what I find around mental, physical, spiritual health with this and how it shows up is that if I have a loving, healthy relationship with my body, I'm not going to self debt and self sabotage, and I'm not going to self harm by either extracting maximum amount of resources out of something at the cost of like the environment or other people or my own sanity, nor am I going to self abuse by denying the fact that like I need a certain amount of money to take care of myself, to literally care for. Like I want to see a medical intuitive like you, Catherine. I want to see a somatic therapist. I want to sit still for a period of time and just enjoy nature. I have to invest in myself. If I don't take care of my mind, body, and spirit, I'm going to have health issues. And this is what we see a lot with weight gain, medical prescription increase, a lot of metabolic diseases related to the way that we live a lifestyle. And a lot of the lifestyle is like people sometimes don't even touch like the nature in a day. Walk around the house, get in a car, go to the office, do the job, come home, repeat, rinse and repeat. Like that's not healthy for a body and a species that has developed to be in regular conscious contact with intimate loving space. We're mammals. Like we look at mammals in little dens, like they curl up in little balls, they hang out, they lay rest, they like eat food and they rest some more, and then they reproduce. Like humans are like, let's work 40 to 100 hours like a week and run. It's like that's you're going to destroy your body. So that's pretty much what I mean by the relationship between money and health.
Okay. Now, as I mentioned, that many people who are listening to our broadcast may be holistic healers, such as you and I are. And as I mentioned, I'm 65 and I run my own business in natural healing for 31 years. And, I keep doing what I do because I love to do it, right? But at the same time, I have investments. I've got a really good financial plan. I've already met my retirement goals as far as like having enough money that I could retire when I want to, although I don't really foresee that in the near future. So, in your opinion, Kevin Farr, what are the best ways for holistic healers to be financially successful?
Well, I think the first thing is to really question what you even mean by financially successful. Right? And I think that separating for a moment the financial outcome from, am I really clear? Like you stated this well before, right? Am I really clear with what my gifts are? Am I really clear with what my values and my priorities are? Am I really clear with what even like an ideal day in my life might look like? Right? And am I really clear on how I can actually interact with people where I can actually help them? Am I really, really clear on the services that I offer? And if I take a look at all these things, am I living a life in integrity? Like if I'm not practicing the principles that I teach to people when I coach or consult, like I'm not of any use to them. I'm actually just a manipulator, right? So if I want to have financial, I'll flip the word health, because I'm also in this phase of my life at 43 where I'm reflecting on like, well, how much money do I actually need? Like I can make any type of financial metric goal I want and just chase after it. And then like, I could bliss in and gaslight myself by being like, I have these skills and services and I do it this way. And I'm going to go make this amount of money. And I'm completely out of integrity about a bunch of other stuff. So I think for financial health is really clarity of what we need to survive, and what are the things that we actually want to invest in, and what's the quality of life we want to have, and then being willing to actually like receive that from nature, to receive that from our clients, to receive that from ourselves, that type of care. And so if I'm really clear on what I mean by financial health and how my lifestyle and my gifts support that, then I can get really clear on what's my service model, what's my business model, how much money am I allocating into my savings? Like, am I investing in my own mental and physical health and integration? Am I investing in travel? What's important to me? And when I have that level of clarity, I can do things like make a business model that actually reflects my spiritual values, that also provides me clarity of how much money I can charge in the marketplace and how I can earn. And for me, what's been really important with this, because I have had major evolutions in what I do for work, even though the backbone to it has always been the same, is that financial health or success for me is really clarity over what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and really being willing to ask really difficult questions about how I relate to money and what I'm trying to do with it as a vehicle for relating and exchanging information, ideas, and resources between me and other people, and ultimately life itself. And that financial abundance isn't just about the amount of money in the bank account, it's the quality of life I have related to how I'm earning that money. If I'm exhausted, out of integrity, lack dignity, doesn't matter whether I can look at a number and say, well, that's a successful number, but I'm self-abusing to do that, or I'm manipulating, or I'm gaslighting myself. Like, that's not a good value. That's not a good value measure. So I think the clarity of what is success, layered with like what actually is it to have the type of lifestyle that is holistically healthy, then that can give more clarity over what financial success actually looks like. And if I have that, I still need a system by which you clearly say multiple times, is how I manage it and how I take care of it. And if I don't have clarity on what I'm taking care of, then I'm just growing stuff and I'm just creating a surplus of things without any understanding. And this is how, like, buy a nice chair and put it in your house and never sit in it. You just acquire stuff and go on with your day. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, good insights. There is an author, unfortunately now deceased, named Stuart Wilde, and he wrote a book, I believe I'm getting the name right, called The Trick to Money is Having Some. The Trick to Money is Having Some. It's a really sweet little book. And in that book, Stuart Wilde says, raise your vibration, and when people show up, charge them.
Love that.
Yeah. And there's
some truth to that.
There's some truth to that, right?
Yeah.
Because all illness is slowed down vibration. So if you think about when you have a cold and you can barely get off the couch, that's slowed down vibration. And illness happens when you raise your vibration, right? So people will walk in my healing room when I see people in person, because I see people in person and work remotely with people all over the world. People walk in my healing room and they're like, I feel better already just being here. It's such an uplifting space. So, again, having done this for 31 years, I sort of have definite opinions about money and abundance. And again, I feel like I've done a really good job because I'm conventionally successful in an unconventional career. I don't believe in ripping people off. I don't believe in having multi-thousand-dollar programs, give me $10,000 and then maybe I'll fix you. I don't believe in having programs that limit your clientele to only people who are high net worth individuals. Then you're not really a healer. So my belief is really making a difference, making a big difference. And when you really make a big difference for people, then they'll tell all your friends. I remember talking to one of my yoga students, and he's a medical doctor, and his sister is a healer. And he's like, how do you do it? I'm like, I just really, really help people. And then they tell all their friends.
You have to really care. You have to really care about people. Yeah.
Exactly. Really care,
Yeah.
really make a difference, right?
Yes.
And all business, one of the things when I'm talking to people about business, I say all business, no matter what it is, solves a problem. So if you think about tire stores, why do we have tire stores? We have tire stores because tires don't last forever. And when I go to the tire store, they go, okay, you have a 2018 Prius, and you drive your car this many miles, and here are the bronze, gold, and platinum versions of tires you could have. So there are tire stores because tires don't last forever, or you can drive down the road and get a nail in it, and then you need somebody who's a tire expert. And
Yes.
so as a healer, what I see is so many healers, they market themselves advertising their so-called mystical or special abilities, which is a very narcissistic, I'm so special, you need to talk to me. It's this, I can solve these problems for you, right?
That's a
And
totally different way of talking. It's like the practicality of like what we're exchanging with people.
yeah, so as a medical intuitive, I solve problems that people have had their entire life, often in 1 or 2 sessions. That's very cost effective. But I rest assured in my financial abundance because I'm very clear who I work for. I work for God.
Higher power is the employer. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. God is the source of my supply, and
Yes.
there's an infinite supply. And
Yeah.
so when you really focus on making a big difference, solving actual problems, and
Yes.
focusing on serving others, then you'll never run out of business.
This is like, it's like funny how many like very complex strategic planning meetings I've been in with really large influential organizations, and nobody's thinking about that because it's actually a much slower growth process. It's much more sustainable. It's not extractive. It's relational, and it's evidence based. And you're really clear on how to show up with value and service. And I think you highlighted something that is critical to like what we do with these more nuanced toolboxes and tool sets, is that there's a practical problem that someone is dealing with, and the clarity of how we can help them helps us actually, I'll use like medical language. It's a targeting strategy. Like if I'm not clear what my gifts are and how I solve problems, I actually can't identify what I'm doing with other people. And to your point, like I can't build a word of mouth referral business, which I am a huge fan of that. I have a not-for-profit and a for-profit business that are both run on referral, word of mouth. 100% of the work that's done. The reason for that is what you said, is that I did not want to build a business based upon filling a funnel, running ads. And not that these things are bad. It's not that I don't create or share content, but the content and the things that I do that people might consider marketing is stuff that I want to do anyway. It's creative expression around useful information that is applicable to people day to day. And it's not a hook or a clickbait thing. I'm not trying to get people to like do anything other than like, here's useful information. Because the people that want to hire me are going to hire me anyway. If I'm really good at what I do, right, and I have a reputation, I'm going to be hired. And that gives me freedom to not have to look at every human being or everything happening in the marketplace as like, how can I get that? How can I turn that into like a money-making opportunity? It's more like, how can I show up and be of value and service, express things that I deeply care about that are meaningful, and then let nature, higher power, who is the ultimate CEO, help me recognize and identify the types of people to do business with and how to value and serve them. And if I actually serve them well, to your point, they're going to tell other people. And the economics of this, the mathematics of this is like, it frees up a lot of time to actually continue to work on how to be of best service for people when I'm like thinking that way. And it also eliminates the pursuit of material control by trying to overwork or over-engineer a business system to attract a volume of people towards you that you still have to sort through and figure out like who to work with and who you can add value. Or you're doing something like not even paying attention to like who you're serving, and all kinds of people are coming into your practice. Maybe sometimes your skills match, maybe sometimes they don't. Whether people return or reoccurring clients, it doesn't matter, because the goal is just to get more going through. That is literally just it's just a manufacturing line. It's not intimate, and I find that really helping people requires me to be intimate with myself, nature, and higher power, so I can be intimate and present with other people. And if I can't tend and help in things inside of here and pay attention to it, it's much harder to pay attention to what other people are doing. And it's harder to trust that if I am clear and effective and in integrity with what I do, I will naturally be able to connect with people to do meaningful work and business and earn in line with spiritual principles that is guided by something that is different than a business plan based upon a monetary gain or a conversion rate or anything like that.
Yeah, great information. And with that, let's take a break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author, and we're listening to Kevin Farr, wellness coach, talk about the economics of self. We'll be right back. So, Kevin Farr, it's pretty self-evident that if someone's not healthy, that the first step is to recognize I need to do something different, right? If I'm not experiencing radiant health or great energy, then I need to do something different. At the same time, we can say the same thing about our relationship with money, right? So if we don't have the money that we want or need, there's something that we need to do different. And over the years, I've had clients of literally every socioeconomic group. I remember going to a website with a lady who said she was a medical intuitive, and she said, I have clients who are millionaires. It's like, well, I don't talk about my net worth, but that's not a problem for me. I've had clients who are billionaires, right? And at the same time, an economic limitation is not a criteria for any of my clients. I've had clients who were homeless and, clients, everywhere in between. So if we recognize, okay, I don't have the relationship with money that I would like to have, in your opinion, as someone who studies the economics of self, how can people build a healthier relationship with money?
By doing what you just identified first and where we started out, which is like to even just acknowledge like something's not working, and I find that like life-changing events, life innovation, life redesign, evolution, change, all these different, you can use any adjective you want to use for this. Like, if I am unwilling to question the conventions and norms inside my own mind, I am limiting my ability to explore the possibility space of how my life could be different, which is not the same as developing a fantasy or delusional thinking about the future, like somehow this money stuff is just going to like fix itself. And I'm not saying this as like a pejorative or critical thing for any of us going through this, because I've done all this too. I've done all this stuff. It's what makes me like really good at like where I'm at now in life is like, no, I mean, I've done this type of stuff where like, I don't want to look at something. I don't want to explore the relationship because it will take me to like what I find with a lot of these dis-ease issues. Like I can have a dis-ease, a disease around how I relate to money. I can have a dis-ease or a disease of how I relate to anything. And if I am unwilling to look at where this pain is coming from, which all of it really goes back to the same place, right? What are the core issues that happen in our home? Who taught us about money? Who taught us about relating to our mind, body, and spirit, right? Where did we inherit these templates? Also, these templates that exist inside of developed civilizations on the planet right now, which is like a productivity efficiency template. And I am what I acquire, and I am the hours that I work, right? if I don't challenge those norms, if I don't challenge how those things made their way into my mind, body, and spirit, it's very difficult to understand what's happening with money, because money's an extension of what's happening in my mind, body, spirit. If it wasn't, then I could just be dead and make money. Like, no, I have to be a living organism with a mind, body, spirit to then interact with the material world to create form. Like money as a financial vehicle or instrument is a material form, and I can change its shape. Like, how much of it do I have or how much do I not have by how I'm relating to it. And if I don't explore how I'm interacting with it, what I'm contributing to it, I don't get clarity of where I can develop a healthier relationship. So I think it starts with just saying, like, hey, if I'm not enjoying the way something's going or something feels off, am I willing to pause for a second and ask myself really difficult, critical thinking questions? What do I actually think about money? Am I willing to explore that maybe I have flawed thinking or distorted thinking that prevents me from actually accessing deeper levels of my emotion, my psychology, my mental model around how I relate to money? And if I can start to examine those places, maybe I will get scared. Am I willing to be scared? Am I willing to trust that maybe, like, I have a story that doesn't make sense? And from that starting point, that creates some spaciousness to welcome in higher power, to welcome in God, to welcome in faith over fear, to welcome in relationship over transaction, and to start to develop a set of principles, values that help us determine what we want to do about money, how we want to relate with it, how we want to share it, how we want to earn it. So I think the starting point is to ask really, really critical thinking questions, to not attack the self either. There's no value to yelling at myself or judging it, even though that can happen. The most important thing is, can I just say, like, well, what's going on? Would you learn that? Would you like to explore that differently? From that standpoint, then I know what to ask people for help about. Then I can go, like, and sometimes I may not even know what's going on. I may just need to go, help. I need a starting point with this because something's not working. But at least that's the starting point, is like, something's not working. I don't even know what to ask or think about. I just need to find other people that are asking these questions and go to people who can show in practice, in integrity, that they are exploring and working with the types of things I'm curious about, and that they have something maybe in wisdom and experience to share with me, because they're asking those questions and it's clear they're thinking them through, because the quality of their life and the health and wellness they exude is a very clear signal that, hey, that person's doing something that's interesting. It's okay for me to be vulnerable around money and have an uncomfortable conversation and start to explore what's going on with it.
Great information. I would add, here's some places to start if you don't have a healthy relationship with money. Spend some time journaling about what you learned from each of your parents about money. What did my mother say about money? How did my mother act with money? What did my father say about money? How did my father act around money? Secondly, you want to look at what archetypes are you living in your life. So common archetypes to, like, are red flags: poor me. When you're poor me, nothing ever works out. There's never enough, you know, that's another way of being a victim, right? And then also prostitute, right? Like, I have to do things that I don't want to do to earn money, right?
I'm just laughing because I've done all this stuff. I've done it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. So ask yourself, what archetypes am I doing with money? Because if you're doing an archetype, you're not, or princess. It's like, I'm so special, I'm so pretty, I'm so whatever. Everybody should just give me money. Well, that's an archetype, right?
Yes, I get that. I call that the entitled archetype. I can do what I want to not have money. I can do what I want to get money. I can just do what I want. I can break laws. That one, when I was younger, did a lot of that.
And that's the holistic healers, talking about their special, how special they are, rather than here's the problems that I can solve for you, right? So looking at your relationship with your parents' relationship with money, because all your money beliefs were basically imprinted before you were 5 years old, right? So they're all your survival beliefs, your archetypes. And then a really good thing to do, just like if you want to be healthier, You find some people who are pretty healthy or walking their talk who make sense. Find mentors, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Who are living in integrity, living a life kind of like you might enjoy living, right? Who can show you how it's done, right? And there's always, no matter what level we are, there's always people who know more than I do.
Yeah.
And my goal is to show up, put duct tape over my mouth, and listen,
Look, listen, learn. Look
listen.
and
Yeah.
learn. Yes.
So Kevin Farr, we've been talking about the economics of self. Any final thoughts for our audience?
Yeah, I love the tools that you just share with people, and what I find is that one of the simplest ways to approach economics of self is to take the questions that Catherine just shared with you, and then write down a day in your life. Write down the schedule of what you're actually doing. Write the activity starting from when you wake up, then how much time you spend on it, and then go all the way back around. Do that for 24 hours, and then then do another day, same schedule, but look at how you spend your time on a weekend when you're not working. That'll give you 2 tables. Then make another table. List the things that you find valuable, that are basically the things that you would regret if you don't do as a way of life before you die. And then write the time that you think you need to spend on those things. Could be like creative expression, music, whatever, and then look at the way that time is being shared based upon how you're living your life now. And then look at the table for your ideal life without trying to judge yourself. Just notice what you notice happening in your body when you look at these 2 different schedules. And then to Catherine's point, start going, if I need help working this through, who do I find that has a good model where I really trust in the mind, body, spirit that people are working on these things? And then have people help you transition from the way life looks today to like, what is this other schedule? Because that's the faith over fear, that we actually have a right to earn a living based upon our natural gifts, and that we have the right to share that with other people for fair pay for fair work. And that starting point. Thank you, Catherine.
Kevin Farr, thank you so much. You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. Our guest today has been Kevin Farr of lovealchemyscience.com. And remember, when you heal your relationship with money, you get out of survival mode and you heal yourself naturally. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Have a beautiful day.